Breaking news! The Los Angeles Rams are training hard in pursuit of the NFL's biggest prize, the Super Bowl. We still have 2 preseason games left before we finally reach Week 1. In the last few hours, we received confirmation of another signing by the Rams, and man, I want to know what you think about it. We also need to talk about concerns regarding recent injuries, but I hope everything works out and the team is at full strength for the start of the 2026 season. Before I give you all the details, make sure you've hit that like button, but only do it if you believe the Rams will beat the 49ers in Week 1. If possible, write this: Go Rams! I believe in the Super Bowl. Man, I am really excited about this. Now, let's get down to business. I want to start with this topic, Keegan Trost's injury. This has undoubtedly raised a sudden, important question regarding roster depth behind Warren McClendon, and the answer might already be inside the Rams' locker room. Los Angeles finished its first preseason game without many physical setbacks, but Trost was one of the players who couldn't finish the match after suffering a hamstring injury. Sean McVay confirmed the issue after the game without giving specifics, but the latest information indicates Trost will be sidelined for several weeks. This casts doubt on the start of his 2026 season and raises the possibility of him beginning the year on the injured reserve list, which would keep him out of practice for 4 weeks. The timing is particularly tricky, as roster spots are being decided right now. Even so, the Rams have a safety net. Veteran Blake Hance stepped in after Trost left and helped an offensive line that finished the game without allowing a single sack. Hance has appeared in 63 NFL games, including 4 playoff matchups, and started 11 games over the course of 6 seasons. If Trost isn't able to return by Week 1, Los Angeles already has an experienced option who knows the group and can step in without forcing the Rams into a desperate move. But now we need to talk about another injury that occurred this same preseason. Mario Williams was trying to turn a promising training camp into a real opportunity with the Rams. The undrafted wide receiver had, on Tuesday, the Rams waived Williams with an injury designation, and, almost immediately, another wide receiver arrived. Alex Bachmann is back with the Los Angeles Rams. Yes, back, because this isn't the first time Bachmann has been part of the organization. In fact, the Rams were the team that gave him his first NFL opportunity back in 2019. 7 years later, the two sides have crossed paths again. And when you look at Bachmann's journey between those two moments, this becomes much more interesting than a simple late preseason transaction. Bachmann entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent out of Wake Forest. During his college career, he caught 82 passes for 1,162 yards and 10 touchdowns across 32 games. He also showed impressive speed, running the 40-yard dash in under 4.5 seconds. Those qualities were enough for Los Angeles to take a chance on him in 2019. But making an NFL roster as an undrafted player is never easy. Bachmann was waived by the Rams that summer, and at that point he had to find another path if he wanted his NFL career to continue. He did exactly that. Instead of disappearing after his first opportunity ended, Bachmann continued moving around the league and finding teams willing to give him another look. He spent time with the New York Giants and Houston Texans before eventually joining the Las Vegas Raiders, his most recent team. Now, after that long journey, he is back where everything started. And there is something important Rams fans need to understand about this signing. If you only look at Bachmann's receiving numbers in the NFL, you might wonder why Los Angeles decided to bring him in. He has only 5 career catches. That number is obviously not going to jump off the page. But players like Bachmann do not remain around professional football for 7 years because of one statistic. His value has also come from being able to contribute on special teams while providing depth at wide receiver. That changes the way we should look at his return. The Rams are not bringing him back and expecting him to suddenly become one of the stars of the offense. That is not the situation. They are adding an experienced player at a moment when they need another healthy receiver, and they are getting someone who has learned how to survive in the NFL by being useful in more than one area. For a player arriving this late in the preseason, that could be extremely important. There are only 2 preseason games remaining. Most of the receivers competing for jobs in Los Angeles have already had weeks to practice, learn the offense, build chemistry, and make an impression on the coaching staff. Bachmann does not get that same amount of time. He is arriving when the competition is already approaching the finish line. So, there is an obvious question here. Does he actually have enough time to make the 53-man roster? It is going to be difficult. That does not mean this opportunity is meaningless. Far from it. Bachmann could still put himself in position to remain with Los Angeles on the practice squad, and considering how long an NFL season is, that can become very important. There are 17 regular season games. We all know how quickly injuries can change a depth chart. A player who seems like an emergency option in August can suddenly become someone a team needs in October, November, or December. That is why the next couple of weeks matter so much for Bachmann. He does not necessarily have to convince the Rams that he deserves a major offensive role. He needs to convince them that he is worth keeping around, and special teams could be his best opportunity to do that. Throughout his NFL journey, Bachmann has built a role as both a depth receiver and special teams contributor. He has appeared in games with the Giants, Texans, and Raiders, finding ways to stay in the league even without producing big receiving numbers. There was also an interesting moment in 2024. Bachmann made the first start of his NFL career. And guess who was on the other side of the field? The Los Angeles Rams? That makes his return even more unusual. The team that gave him his first NFL opportunity eventually watched him make his first career start as an opponent. Now, that same organization is giving him another chance. It has been a long road back, but Bachmann is not returning as the same player who arrived in 2019. Back then, he was an undrafted rookie, trying to prove that his production at Wake Forest and his speed could translate to professional football. Now he comes back with years of experience inside NFL organizations. He knows what roster cuts feel like. He knows what it means to change teams. He knows what it takes to prepare without knowing exactly how many opportunities he will receive. And he understands that for a player fighting for a depth position, doing one job is often not enough. That experience could help him during these final preseason games. At the same time, the reason this opportunity exists is unfortunate for Mario Williams. Williams had been doing enough in training camp to generate some attention. For an undrafted player, that is exactly what you want during the summer. You want coaches noticing you, you want opportunities, and you want every practice to build toward those preseason games. Then, the hamstring injury happened, and the entire picture changed. Now, Williams has been waived with an injury designation, while Bachmann takes his place on the roster. That does not necessarily mean Williams's NFL story is over. He could eventually receive an opportunity somewhere else. And ironically, Bachmann himself is proof of how unpredictable these careers can be. He was waived by the Rams in 2019. 7 years later, they called him back. Sometimes a player's path simply takes longer than expected. For Bachmann, the challenge now is taking advantage of a very small window. He could potentially be on the field against the Saints in the Rams' next preseason game. If that happens, do not focus only on whether he catches a pass. Watch where the Rams use him. Special teams could tell us much more about what Los Angeles is evaluating. When teams begin making decisions about the final spots on a 53-man roster, versatility becomes incredibly valuable. A backup receiver may not get many offensive touches during the regular season. So if that player can cover kicks, contribute in the return game, handle multiple assignments, and also step into the offense when needed, suddenly there are more reasons to keep him. That is the type of opening Bachmann has to attack. His speed is part of the equation as well. We already know he ran under 4.5 in the 40 coming out of Wake Forest. His agility and route running are also traits that give him an opportunity to compete. But again, nothing is guaranteed. This is a late signing. There is already competition at the position, and there are only 2 preseason games left for the Rams to decide who stays and who goes. Bachmann has to make an impression quickly. The receiver situation also has another detail worth watching. Puka Nacua has been dealing with psoas soreness and remains day-to-day. The Rams have taken a cautious approach, keeping him out of recent practices rather than pushing him unnecessarily. Bachmann's arrival should not be viewed as an attempt to replace what Nacua brings to the offense. That would be the wrong way to look at this move. Instead, this is about having another healthy, experienced receiver available, while Los Angeles manages the group and continues preparing for the season. Bachmann can provide depth, he can work on special teams, and he can compete for whatever offensive opportunities become available. For the Rams, there is very little reason not to take a closer look. For Bachmann, there is everything to gain. That is what makes this story interesting. 7 years ago, the Rams gave him an opportunity when every NFL team had passed on him in the draft. He did not make it, but he kept going. He found another organization, then another, then another. He stayed around the NFL despite having only 5 career receptions because he found other ways to contribute. Eventually, he earned his first start. Now, the journey has brought him back to Los Angeles. And there is also a personal connection to the area because Bachmann is a Southern California product. So in more ways than one, this is a return. But none of that guarantees him a job. The Rams still have to build the best roster they can, and Bachmann has to show them why his name should remain part of their plans after the preseason ends. The 53-man roster will be a difficult target because he joined the competition so late. The practice squad could be a more realistic path, and that should not be dismissed as insignificant. If Bachmann earns a practice squad position, he stays inside the organization. He continues learning. He continues practicing. And if injuries or other circumstances create an opening during the regular season, Los Angeles already has someone available who knows the team. That could be valuable over 17 games. It also explains why this signing makes sense, even if Bachmann never becomes a major part of the offense. The Rams needed another receiver after Williams went down. Instead of simply adding an inexperienced player, they brought back someone who has spent years navigating NFL rosters and contributing in multiple roles. Now, they get 2 preseason games to see exactly what he can still offer. And Bachmann gets something every player fighting for an NFL career wants: another opportunity. What he does with it is the part we need to watch. Can he learn enough quickly enough? Can he make an impact on special teams? Can his speed create an opportunity at receiver? Can he convince the coaches that keeping him around gives this roster additional protection during a long season? Those questions will start being answered very soon. And this whole situation shows just how fast things can change during preseason. A few days ago, Mario Williams was fighting to turn a strong camp into a roster position. Then he suffered a hamstring injury. Now he is off the roster, and a receiver who originally joined the Rams 7 years ago has returned to take that spot. That is the NFL in August. Now I want to know what you think, Rams fans. Do you believe Bachmann's experience, speed, and special teams ability give him a real chance to stay in Los Angeles after the preseason? Would you keep him around as depth on the practice squad if he performs well over these final 2 games? And what did you think about the Rams bringing back a familiar face after Mario Williams went down? Tell me your opinion, because Bachmann waited 7 years for another opportunity with the Rams, and now he has only a very short time to prove that this reunion deserves to last.